get no rest. No, no. I've been running so long that my feet don't work no more. Oh yeah, I've been running.
Well, it's another beautiful Saturday morning here. Hard to believe it's only about 3 or 4 weeks ago it was getting down to 0 overnight, and flat out getting to 18 or 20 degrees during the day. It's always very hard to get going in the morning when it's so cold, but now it's not so bad, and the days are going to be probably around 26, 28. A couple of weeks ago, in between those cold mornings, we were having days where it was getting up over 30, 35, 36 degrees. And again, that makes it very hard to slave over a hot welder. But anyway, today looks like it's going to be a good day. But I was just watching that last video that I posted, and a couple of things come to mind. And one being, look, I'm not doing these videos as instructional videos to show people how to do these restoration projects. There's stacks of guys online that are doing that, and they are far more experienced than what I am. And actually, some of them are incredible, the work that they do, and not just the work that they do, but their video editing skills are brilliant as well. But anyway, the other thing that came to mind, you can see over here the English wheel, and I've got a bead roller and a little shrinker stretcher there as well. I didn't have those when I initially started, and with most of the panels that I've made have been just with basic hand tools. I got the bead roller and the English wheel. I was planning on making a new bonnet skin for the bonnet that I had here, that it had been butchered. It had all the reinforcing underneath the bonnet skin had been cut through because they put an XR8 Falcon bulge in the middle of the bonnet, and so yeah, I was planning on using that to sort of make a bonnet skin. And in the meantime, I've actually found a good bonnet. It's got a bit of rust that needs to be repaired, which I will do. But I would still like to make a spare bonnet, because my intention is that after I get this 4-door RS2000 done, I'd like to do a 2-door. And who knows whether I might need a bonnet for that project. But I would also like to have a go at fabricating a bonnet with a nice bonnet scoop integrated into the bonnet to get some nice clean fresh air into the engine. And yeah, if I do it, I want it to look nice. Like a lot of the new cars coming out now do have holes into the bonnet to let extra air in for cooling and what have you. But I think there's nothing worse than when you see some of these classic cars. I think the worst ones is when they got a round hole cut in them and there's just an air cleaner hanging through. But also, I just don't like the look of these things with the big superchargers and big carburetors and big, reverse scoops and all that. I just think it ruins the classic car. But obviously there's people that like that sort of thing. And anyway, so I might get cracking and get some work done for the day. Well, this is the new bonnet that I picked up. A vast improvement on that bonnet that came with the car. So this one needs some rust repairs across the front here, which shouldn't be too difficult to do. The only thing that concerns me, there's quite a bit of surface rust, and when you look down in there you can see a bit of rust. So I think the best shot will be that I will de-skin this bonnet, separate the bonnet from the framing, and blast it and treat it and then put it back together. So in this next video you'll see this is the bonnet after I'd cut the XR8 fiberglass bulge out of the bonnet. It had already had the framing cut up and wasn't very good anyway. This photo is the actual XR8 fiberglass bulge that was removed, and in the next photo you'll see where I started to make a new bonnet skin, and I might come back to that at some point in the future. Well, I thought it might be time to do something about welding that large gearbox tunnel into place, and perhaps to get this sorted out for the heater. and weld that in place. But I've run into a little complication. If we come around and have a look inside, that's the heater box there, and with the large gearbox tunnel, it's not quite fitting into place. I either need to modify, take that down a little bit just there, or the other option, I was just looking, you can get an electric unit that goes in that's a lot smaller and quite a nice looking unit, but probably going to be about $500 or $600. So I don't know, I'm just going to have a bit of a think about that. Now the other thing that I've got to do, obviously this large gearbox tunnel was made to fit up to the larger tunnel that goes through the car, so I don't think that's too much of a problem. I'm just going to adapt that so that mounts down onto the original there. So anyway, that's what I'm going to have a bit of a look at now. There it is in place, and there's the heater unit sitting on top of it. It fits quite nicely now, so hopefully there's a bit of a gap under the floor there. Hopefully I can even pull it down a bit tighter and it'll be a good fit. So when welding the light gauge metal, you've got to be very careful. Now the sheet metal of the car is less than 1 millimeter, about 0.9, 0.98, something like that. The gearbox tunnel there that I'm welding in, fortunately, is a little bit thicker. It seems to be about 1.2 mil. But you've got to space your welds. You can't just weld a continuous weld or you just blow holes. So you'll see in a lot of these videos, I move to a new section and weld, and you just do a tack here and a tack there. If the metal gets a bit hot, you'll see I've got the air line there that I just blow some cool air over it to bring the temperature down. Now it's time to try and tidy it all up a little bit. We're using a MIG welder. The welds tend to be very hard to weld. I believe that using a TIG is much better. The welds are softer and easier to weld down. So sometimes when I'm doing these, I won't take them all down, because you don't want to actually end up grinding the actual sheet metal and making it too thin. Well, it's a new day. I'm back out here. I've got the camera mounted much better than the last time. I've made up a new new stand to hold my camera. So I'm continuing with putting the gearbox tunnel in, and we're now working on the driver's side. So I've also got my trusty light that I made up a light stand, so I can get a bit of LED light right over the top of where I'm working, and I can already see what an amazing difference it makes, because I can see what a terrible job I had started here last week. So anyway, I'm going to keep on keeping on. This here is the said trusty light that I was just talking about in my previous little video, and as you can see, I can move it right down over the top of where I'm going to weld. But the one thing I need to do is probably make it so that I can swivel the head around. So anyway, now back to welding the driver's side of the gearbox tunnel and just giving it a bit of a tidy up, and then the job's pretty much done. So this here is the bulkhead strengthening plate that I bought a few months back. So that's going to go on the firewall there above the gearbox tunnel. I figured that it could use a bit of extra strength in that area because it's so much bigger, the opening for that gearbox tunnel, as to what it was originally. At first I wasn't sure if maybe it was a little bit of overkill, but I think that it's a very well worth modification there. So you can see all those holes there. So basically it's more or less spot welding it to the firewall in all those positions, and then I fully welded around the lower section around around the gearbox hole, and I run several welds across the top. Okay, so now it's time for some excitement, unboxing some new bits and pieces. Actually, I ordered this stuff from the UK. I was very impressed. I ordered it on Friday after lunch. I got an email before knock-off time Friday to say the parts had been dispatched, and they arrived here on Tuesday. So it was like three or 4 days and they arrived here. So anyway, we've got a strut tower support, goes between the two strut tops under the bonnet, just to hold the strut tops in place under extreme cornering. And we've got here the anti-tramp bars, so they are mounted on the chassis at the rear, and the bars then mount onto the top of the diff housing, and that's to hold the diff stable, what they call tramp or axle hop, under a heavy acceleration, or trying to take off quickly. The axles basically get the back wheels bouncing. This was a real problem I had back in 1980 with my Ford Escort. Being a young bloke wanting to get those back wheels spinning, you just couldn't do it. It'd just bounce, although I had fairly massive tyres under the back of it. So this will be the next step to fit these in place. So I'll just show you where the strut top support goes. It fits on there. Now what I did discover is that the top plates, this thing really sits right at the front of the top plate. So I've actually, I'm going to extend the top plates so that to distribute the forces more evenly, rather than just all in basically onto the top, onto the front of the strut plate that's there. So that's what I was actually working on Saturday just gone, and I'll have another video coming up soon with some of that stuff.